As you're being seated and our children are going to Jamtown, Junior Jamtown, let me kind of give you an overview of what we're doing today. You may have noticed that Brother Paul's not here. He is on vacation, has been on vacation since Monday, left me in charge, and it's been a great week. Let me just say it. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a very busy week. And for some reason, since last night, I've had the hiccups. So if I occasionally do that, just overlook it. We'll just get through this somehow. But anyway, we've got a lot of things we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Acts 1-8 mission trip, one-day mission trip that we took yesterday. 10 of us did. Very briefly about, in fact, I'll just mention that now, that the disaster relief that Amanda Burgos was scheduled to go with us to Acts 1-8, but she's down in the Houston area right now with a lot of other Southern Baptist folks doing disaster relief and meal distribution, all that kind of stuff. I've got a couple of folks going to be talking about our Hope Rising trip that we made to Haiti. They're at that children's home there. And then also we're going to be talking just briefly about Dixie Jackson, that we're in that season of prayer and offering right now for that. And you got that prayer guide in your bulletin last week. And so we'll be continuing on with that offering for the next month or so. So I've asked Eric Eric Parker, if he'll come up and tell us a little bit about what he learned in Haiti. Trying to think of something smart I like to say, and it's just not coming to me, Eric. So it's all yours.
Because there's a first time for everything, right? I feel like I'm supposed to preach or something up here behind this thing. A couple weeks ago, getting back from Haiti, of course, there were, I believe, 8 of us, and I really enjoyed the trip. Didn't really know what to expect going down there. I traveled a good bit in my past, all for military reasons around the world, but never on a missionary trip. So it was an eye-opening experience. I enjoyed getting to be with each of the ones from our group that were with us as well, and getting to know them. So I really tried to think of something to say this morning that might at least shed some light on something for you and myself. But so what did I learn by going to Haiti? First of all, I learned how to paint without many tools. That was pretty interesting. Found out there's not a Lowe's or a Home Depot anywhere close to where we were at. There's actually a house there that's being built for the next family that's coming down there. That's right now it's just a blank concrete house, and they wanted to get that painted, and that was high on their list. So myself and Jim and Brad Sperling, that was our main objective from day one, and just needless to say, we did encounter some problems there, but we got it done. I think we got it done by about Tuesday evening or sometime. But we did lots of other things. However, Ben wanted us to go about doing different things. We just tried to be at his beck and call if he needed us, and sometimes he was quick to let us know that that's what he needed done, and that's what we were there for. So that was good. I also learned that church services are really long in Haiti. I think I talked to Chrissy one night, and I said, I just sat through a song service that lasted almost 2 hours. But I enjoyed every minute of it, even though I did not have a clue as to anything they said the whole time. So that was a lot of fun. Learned about how big rats get in other places besides here in just Arkansas. We had an experience, and I'll share real quick. I'm not just going to talk about things like this the whole time I'm up here, but we actually, around this house one day, we were breaking up concrete to pull a fence up out of the ground, and they have a couple tractors there that have been donated. So we're busting up this concrete, and Ben's the big guy, and he's strong, so he's got the chain, and he's the chain man. He's wrapping the chain around the bottom of the pole, and we got the guy that works for him there on the tractor, and they go to lift this pole out of the ground. When we finally get it loose, well, when we do, somebody starts yelling at Ben, and we didn't know what he was talking about. Well, it turns out there was a big rat on Ben's back. They were coming out of the top of this pipe, and none of us saw it. So after about 2 or 3 minutes of us running around screaming like little girls, grown men, we figure out that there's a nest of rats in this pipe, and so we get it all settled down. We get the pipe laid over, pulled out of the ground, and we get it picked back up. We're going to move it out of the way so the tractor can get by. Well, Jim picks it up, and then right when he gets it up to about his face, another one comes out of the end of the pipe. So anyway, we had some fun with rats down there. And one more story, and I'm done. One night in the guys' room, we had our little guys' room, we hear a knock on the door. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and she knows where this is going, but I promise it's all in love. Miss Diann Merritt pokes her head into the door, and she says, "Guys," and if you guys can hear Miss Diann, you can hear her say this. She says, "Guys, we have an emergency." I said, "Okay." So we all get up. She said, "There is a tarantula in the back room on the wall." So we all go in there, we're grabbing whatever weapons we can find. We think we might can kill this big, huge tarantula. We go in there and we finally find it. It's not a tarantula. It's a spider. It is a big spider, to her credit. It is a big spider. So we ended up killing it. Anyway, Miss Diann would not go back in that room unaccompanied for the rest of the trip. So anyway, so lots of things we learned in Haiti and had a great time. But we weren't only down there to have fun. We also learned a lot, and I actually learned a lot about myself while I was there. And when you go to a place like that, and you go somewhere where you see people that have absolutely nothing. I mean, we all know of people in our areas where we say, they're poor, they don't have a whole lot. But these people, they don't even have a little bit. They have nothing. They live and walk on dirt and mud. That's the floor in their homes, if they do have a home. If they have a wall in their home, it's probably just a piece of tin that's been stood up with some makeshift sticks. They don't have any way to make money. There is no money in a lot of places. So when you're faced with people and talking with people that are in that environment, you expect to see them down and downtrodden. But these people are probably, I would guess, happier than we are. And so you got to start asking yourself, why are these people happy when I go around mad and about stupid stuff all the time? Well, we went to, and some of you guys remember from Big Stuff this summer, they talked about seeing through certain filters, right? Seeing through certain filters on your eyes. When you go to a place like this, you have to take those filters away. You have to take your blinders off that you live with on a daily life. And once you take those off and you boil it down to whatever you're looking at, you're all of a sudden seeing about as close as you can see like Jesus as there is, because you're seeing things for what they really are. You're not influenced by all these other things that don't mean anything. And as I think about being and Andy and Matt and Kara and all of those on the mission field who have put themselves out there and given up their lives for the work of Christ, they're seeing things as Jesus sees, and that's their primary focus. That's what they're there for. They're ministering to these people where they're at on their terms, and that's what we're all called to do, to bring light to the darkness, as was mentioned just earlier. So when I was there, and then when Jim said, "Hey, do you want to speak?" I thought of this sermon I heard when I was a little kid, and it was from a pastor, and it was entitled. The title was "Getting the Clay Away," and I know you all remember the story of the paralyzed man whose friends dug through the roof and lowered him down so he could see Jesus, and Jesus could heal him, right? And if you think about those roofs on those houses those days, they're made of like thatch and mud and clay. And as that sets, you know how hard that gets. It's like rock pretty much. So I'm going to just read it real quick. It says, "On one of those days while he was teaching," this is in Luke chapter 5, "Pharisees and teachers of the law were sitting there who had come from every village of Galilee and Judea and also from Jerusalem. And the Lord's power to heal was in him. Just then some men came carrying on a stretcher a man who was paralyzed. They tried to bring him in and set him down before him. Since they could not find a way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and lowered him on the stretcher through the roof and through the roof tiles into the middle of the crowd before Jesus. Seeing their faith, he said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." So just think of these guys and their desire and their love for their friend as they dug through this mud and clay with their hands, giving all they could just so their friend could have a chance to be with Jesus. That's how I see Ben and Andy, and that's how I see our missionaries out there today. Whatever they had to give up, they gave it up, and we need to support them however we can. Whatever we need to move to get out of the way, to get closer to Christ, that's what we need to do. Whatever clay we need to get out of our way to get closer to Jesus, that's what we need to do. So, and that's where he wants us to be. So I want to thank the group that went with me, and I want to thank the church for being so supportive of these ministries and Hope Rising and the many others that we do support. But just remember that it is because we support them that they're able to support him, and we give him all the honor and glory for it. Thanks.
I grew up in church, I knew some things about God, but God didn't know me at the time. Then I came to the BCM, I heard the gospel, I gave my life to Christ, and I was on fire, so I was sharing the gospel with most everybody that I seen.
Larry Toller at the First Baptist Church of Gould, which lives in a predominantly African-American community, had a desire to break the racial barrier and racial tensions. And so what other better way than to have Trey and Chump Chump become a part of his staff, so to speak, throughout the summer to help reach the African-American community.
We wasn't getting no kids at first, so Larry, he was like, just open up the gym and stuff like that. Like, we got the gym, let's use it. So we opened it up, and we played basketball for a couple minutes, and then we had Bible study in between, and that's how I was able to share the gospel with those kids.
I remember going down there at the end of E4 call, and we were eating at a table at a restaurant in Gould, and one of the mothers of the son that was baptized came right up to our table and said, "Hey, are you guys responsible for Trey and Chump Chump?" And she began to have tears in her eyes because she said, for the first time in my life, my son's life, this is the first time he ever wanted to read the Bible, and I never had to make him. And so 12 of those students at the end of the summer committed to Christ, and another 60 had the opportunity to plant the seed of the gospel.
Many of you may have recognized the BCM director at UAPB, who has spoken here at our church before, and I know with the youth on Wednesday nights a few times as well, doing tremendous things out at UAPB with the Baptist Collegiate Ministry out there. So that's one of the areas where our Dixie Jackson missions offering goes toward, that we've been emphasizing here the last week or so, and will continue for the next month. Another area, another ministry that the Dixie Jackson missions offering goes to help support is the one-day mission trip, which we had 10 from our church go yesterday to North Little Rock, and just a whole variety. I think there were a little over 2,000 people, 2,000 Southern Baptists from all over the state who met at North Little Rock High for a little bit and then dispersed out into their different ministry teams. And there were all kinds of medical teams and evangelism teams and prayer walking teams. But the 10 of us, we had myself and my wife Ruth and Doug Brown. We attended a block party in Sherwood. And then Karen Bonds and Ava Clare, as well as Eddie and Jennifer Weaver, they participated in a children's ministry site, kind of like a backyard Bible club. Earl Smith and Greg Stanford did some home repair for a person there in the North Little Rock area. And Larry Goodnight worked in a food distribution area. And so we did that for about 4 or 5 hours, came back and met for the report. And I think they said there were about 23 people as a result of the one-day trip that gave their life to Christ. So it was a good day. And then a lot of people were touched as well. You know, it's not... A big part of it is salvation. I mean, that's the main reason, but a lot of it is also physical needs as well. And so we were able to minister to several people. All right, I've also asked Diann Merritt to come up here. Diann, come on up here and share a little bit about your experience in Haiti. Talk about tarantulas if you'd like.
Well, apparently I didn't know the difference between a big tarantula and a big spider, but at the time it really didn't make a lot of difference to me. So I was just thankful that Brad and Eric came to my rescue on that, and I did avoid all tarantulas, however. If you don't go out at a certain time of the night, they're not going to find you, but this other little persistent spider did. But I am privileged today, very privileged, to stand in front of you and tell you a little bit about my experience in Haiti. I was privileged to serve with the team that went with us, and I didn't say this in the first service, but I want to say to Laura Beth and Allie, sometimes we take our teenagers for granted a little bit, but let me tell you, they weren't just along for the ride. They did everything that we did, and they were definitely there on mission, and I was so proud of those girls and proud to get to know them better and to minister with them. So that's just something I wanted to say about them. But as far as being led to go to Haiti, ever since this ministry opportunity was first presented to us, I knew that I needed to go. And y'all know there's been several trips before I actually decided to go. And I gave every excuse in the book that I'm too old, I don't have enough money, I'm not in good enough shape. And, you name it, I thought of it all. And finally I was out of excuses because I wasn't getting any younger. If I was going to go, I was going to have to go. And I wasn't going to have any more money. So then, I kind of told the Lord, well, I want a family member to go with me because then I'll be more in my comfort zone. Well, that didn't pan out at all. I mean, through no fault of their own, but so I said, well, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go ahead and go. And I'm so glad that I did. It's one of the best decisions that I've ever made. So just to tell you a little bit about our trip and impressions when I got there. When we were driving through Port-au-Prince going to Leogane, it's about a 20-mile drive, and it was like nothing that I had ever seen before. I haven't traveled a whole lot, and especially out of the United States. And when we landed there and we got in the van heading to Leogane, there were just masses of people everywhere, and they drive crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy. I was scared we were either going to hit somebody or somebody was going to hit us. Nothing like how it is over here, but you just seen these waves of humanity, and I got an overwhelming feeling of helplessness that we were 8 little Americans in a van, and what could we do to help these people who are in such darkness with the chains of voodoo and just poverty and earthquake rubble from 2010 everywhere. And it was very disheartening, but at the very same time, I was feeling a peace that I was where I was supposed to be at that time. So it was really an odd ride for me. They didn't know I was going through these feelings of having both of those feelings at the same time. So when we finally arrived at Hope Rising, and it's such a beautiful place, so different than what I had just driven through, that I just had to stop and say, thank you, Lord, for giving this beautiful, safe place to these children who need a safe and loving place. So I just am so happy that Ben and Andy and the other missionaries are there with those babies and doing the work that they're doing. Because now, they've got the Hope Rising Academy there as well. So all of the orphans that are of school age get to go to school at the academy, but then also children from the community, that get sponsored or their parents can afford it, can go to Hope Rising Academy. And they are doing a wonderful job there. Andy is the co-administrator of the school there. And we got us girls, while they were over there digging rats out of a pipe, thank the Lord we weren't over there, us girls were teaching classes in the library at the school, which was completely awesome. We did crafts and story time. We had a Bible story every day, and puppets and coloring, but most of all, songs. I just want to be a sheep, bye, 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 bye. They sang that all week long. Everybody was like really sick of it, but they loved it. The kids did. But we got to know those kids, not just the ones in the orphanage, but in the community. And it was just such a blessing to get to know them and see their sweet little spirits. And I was also very encouraged that the school gives 2 meals a day to those children. They feed them breakfast and lunch. And, sometimes in that surrounding neighborhood, it's a struggle to get 1 meal a day. So to know that those babies are fed 2 meals a day is a wonderful thing. The other ministry that us girls did that we were very involved in was called, we called it Pamper Parties, basically. And what it was, I had been asking the Lord what He wanted me to do in Haiti. I knew there was something specific, and I knew in my mind I wanted to express our love and our appreciation for the ladies that are there in that community, the ones who are the house moms that take care of those babies, and they call them mom too. So they're there, and the cooks and the cleaning ladies, the teachers. We wanted to just, we want to love on the orphans, and we did, believe me. But we also wanted to reach out to those in the community. A lot of them are also church members there and very involved. So what we decided to do after talking with Andy and praying about it, we decided to have what we called a pamper party. And so what we did to encourage those ladies, we did several parties throughout the week because we couldn't get them all together at the same time. So we just had a party when we could, and we wanted to present the gospel, which Amanda did, and she also made this big banner. And she had all of the ladies that were serving there we painted the bottom of their feet, and they pressed it on the banner, and we put their name on it. And Amanda had put a verse, and it was part of her devotion from Isaiah 52:7. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring the good news, who proclaim peace, who bring good tidings, who proclaim salvation, who say to Zion, your God reigns. So we made sure and expressed to them how much we appreciated all they do to help the missionaries and also the children. So it was just a wonderful blessing, I hope, to them, but also to us. After we had our devotion, we washed their feet, and that was a wonderful time. And then we did like facials and makeup and some nails and stuff, just treating them special. And at the end, we gave them a basket to take home that was full of a lot of things that they could use and that they might not always have at home. Candy, they love candy, and soap and lotions and jewelry. They were so thrilled, and I want to thank each and every one of you that helped with that, because when we started planning this and this started evolving, we had a needs list, and I presented that to the choir and some in our Sunday school class and in Awana's and all, and those things were just magically donated. It was just awesome. And JRMC, I've got to say, they went above and beyond on what they did, because as soon as they heard that we had a need, we were flooded with things that they donated to us. And they were very generous in that, and I truly appreciate it. But when we finished our parties for the ladies, there was tears, there was smiles, there was laughter. They hugged us, kissed us on the cheek, and told us that we had shown them the love of Jesus. And I say that in all humility. I'm not bragging by any means at all. It was only through God that we were able to do that and minister to those ladies. And some of them told us that they were so thankful that God had sent us to them for that day. So I'm hoping that these ladies, through this, they heard the gospel, the seeds were planted. I'm sure some of them were already saved, but maybe others were not. But I hope they realize, and maybe for the first time, that they are very, very special to God and very treasured. So we were so blessed to be able to do that for them. We also had some other special things. We distributed food in the community. Eric and Brad and Jim and Ben went down to a store, if you can kind of call it a store. It was more like a warehouse, I think, and they brought the supplies that we needed, and one afternoon we were able to distribute food, and that was a wonderful thing. And the community that we went to, like, here's the church right here, and there's a little walkway, and it's right here. I mean, if the pastor lives there, and a lot of the church members, and one of the deacons from the church went around with us, and that was truly a blessing. And also, as Eric mentioned, the worship services. I've never been to anything quite like it before. And it was long, but, I enjoyed every minute of it, because knowing where these people came from, they came in dressed as good as what they had. They were dressed, they came in, and they sang to the top of their lungs, whether they could sing or not, okay? They sang. Nobody just sat there. And to know that they didn't have hardly anything as far as the physical realm. There was not a lot of even what I would call basic necessities that they have. But yet they weren't content to just sit there. They had to praise, and it was just the Spirit of God was so strong in that place that, and I'm not a person that cries. I have a lot of emotions, but I very rarely cry, even when other people are crying. There's probably a lot of psychological things going on with why that doesn't happen. But on that day, the tears rolled down my eyes almost the entire service, because the Spirit of God was so strong there, and the praise was so powerful. And Pastor Matt, the missionary, him and Lukey is the Haitian pastor. They co-pastor the church. Well, Matt was preaching, and Lukey was translating in Haitian Creole, and for a while I didn't know who was preaching and who was translating, because it was seamless, completely seamless. And I finally realized it was Matt that was preaching that Sunday, but it was a true blessing. And you did good Sunday night too, Jim. Jim did a great job. He preached Sunday night after, like Eric said, about a 2-hour song service, but it was wonderful. So people, what I want to say to kind of wrap up, and I know I might be going over just a little bit, but when I came into Port-au-Prince, I felt hopeless. I felt like, what can we do? But once I got there, I realized that I'm not responsible for that whole town of Port-au-Prince and those masses of people, but I am responsible to tell who God puts in front of me about the Lord. It's about one-on-one relationships. I thought about Jesus. A couple of times he preached to big crowds of people, but most of the time he was talking to one person at a time, meeting their need. And so I felt a lot more encouraged once I realized that it's about relationships and about building those one-on-one relationships. Brandon said, and Eric talked about too, shining light in a dark place. This is a dark place. There's many dark places in this world. This is one of them. But Hope Rising is raising up a generation of young people that they're going to know the Lord. They're going to know His Word. They're going to be able to know that voodoo is false because they know the truth. They know the true God, and hopefully we'll all make a decision to worship Him, because that's what's going to change Haiti right there. They need some good, strong, godly leaders that's going to lead them in the right way instead of the wrong way that they're going. And there are some kids right now. I met one boy, one of the orphans there, very precious, whose name is Jeffney, and he is a leader already. He stands out in the crowd. He takes care of the younger kids. He is good as far as deportment and all of that, and he's going to be a leader. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a leader rose up from Hope Rising. That could make a change in Haiti. So the work they're doing is fantastic. It's so wonderful. People have asked me, would I go back? Yes, I would absolutely go back if the Lord gives me the opportunity. I mean, the work is hard there, like Eric said, and it is hot, but it's not unbearable. I mean, we all made it. We all made it back, and even for an old person like me, I could handle it. The food was great. The bread, I'm telling you, you won't lose any weight if you go. But I didn't go for any comfort. I just went to try to help bless the people there and do what God told me to do, and get out of my comfort zone. And I will say that I was never in my comfort zone the whole time, but God can use us out of our comfort zone. He always does. So there may be something that God's telling you to do. It might not be going to Haiti. It might be teaching a Sunday school class. We need Sunday school teachers. It might be working in Awanas. It might be going on a one-day trip. It might be going on a week-long trip. It might be going to the other side of the world. But whatever it is that God's telling you to do, He will give you the strength to do it. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, and this is my life verse, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Fear, the devil will use fear. Fear is a tool of the devil, because he's got something for each and every one of you to do. Maybe it is going to Haiti to help Ben and Andy. Maybe it's something else. But there's something. If you're a Christian and you're still breathing, then there's work for you to do. He's not through with you yet. So just think about what we can all do together to proclaim the gospel to a lost and dying world. And I'm proud and happy that I was able to go to Haiti and that I had the privilege to do that and the privilege to tell y'all a little bit about it. Thank you.
You talked so long, my leg went to sleep. Oh, my goodness. I can relate to what Diann said, because a lot of times when I get up to preach, people are sitting out there with tears in their eyes as well. So I understand. Hey, we're briefly going to look at a passage of Scripture. It's out of Matthew chapter 6. It's right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And if you look at Matthew 5, 6, and 7, you'll see that's, if you have a red letter Bible, it's all red, because Jesus is talking. It's Jesus' sermon to to his disciples to tell them, here's how a kingdom citizen is supposed to live. And right there in the middle of Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21, it says, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. You might think, well, it's kind of an odd passage to look at a missions day, but bear with me on this. First of all, real quickly, what's Jesus not saying? He's not saying it's wrong to have a savings account. He's not saying that it's wrong to prepare for expenses and buy stuff, because we need to do that. We need to buy stuff to live in this world. He's not even saying don't store up treasures. He's not saying don't store up treasures for yourselves. He's saying don't store up for yourselves treasures where? On earth. That's right. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth. He then goes on to tell us to store up treasures for ourselves in heaven. And here's the reason why he doesn't want us to store up treasures for ourselves on earth, because stuff is stuff and stuff decays, right? Moth and rust destroy, thieves break in and steal. We can relate to a lot of that, rust and corrosion and losing stuff, and everything seems to depreciate. Because life is temporary. We really get pumped when somebody celebrates a 100-year birthday. That's seldom seen. But how often, or how much is that in comparison to eternity? And one thing that I've done, I talk about this in my Sunday school class quite a bit. My leg's about awake again. Talk about this in my Sunday school class quite a bit. I've used it in here. Girls, would you come up here? And Brandon's used this as well. It's just a wonderful illustration. If take that and walk that way, and take this and walk that way, and don't drop it. And I'm kind of and don't drop it. And it's all right. Just keep going. Just keep going until you can't stop. Okay. You're doing good. You're doing good. Anyway, it's just a good illustration of eternity. And I'm kind of a numbers guy, and I like number lines and that kind of thing. So I think of this as a timeline of eternity. And I have here a clothespin, and it has my birth year, 1961-2017. I don't know. Hopefully it's a little bit longer than that, my lifespan. But don't let that drop now. I'm just kidding. Your girls are doing a great job. But if even our lifespan, and that's 56 years, and even if it were 100 years or 120 years or whatever, in the scheme of eternity, and this goes on and on both ways, right? In the scheme of eternity, our life is just a dot on this number line. Go ahead, you can drop that down. Thank you very much. Thank you, girls. There you go. Anyway, our life in that clothespin, in that dot, it's just a little bit compared to eternity. So the question is, if we're not supposed to invest in the temporal, we're supposed to invest in the eternal. What is the eternal? What lasts forever? It's not stuff. It's not monies. It's people. It's people's souls. That's what lasts forever. So we invest in those eternal things by investing in the eternal destinies of people. And when we do that, we bring them, hopefully, one step closer to Jesus. That includes, as we've talked about many times, both physical needs and emotional needs and spiritual needs. Jesus did all that, and we follow his example as well, as we did in Haiti, as we did it yesterday in North Little Rock. So you see how all this ties into missions. We continue to contribute to mission causes like Dixie Jackson for state missions, as well as these other mission offerings that we do, and take mission trips, and hopefully even live missionally, meaning we look for those opportunities in our day-to-day life, because, number one, we're commanded to do that. And then also we follow Jesus' example by doing what he's done. We teach, we preach the good news of Christ. We meet physical needs, meet emotional needs as well, as you've heard from Diann and Eric. But what can we do? What can we do to live missionally? What can I do as an individual? Well, here's a problem that we have, I think. No scientific research done here. This is just kind of something I've observed. I think the larger a church gets, unless they are intentional, the more there's the attitude of somebody else will do it. Right? You have about 300 people in here, and we talk about a need or something, and there's the temptation of, there is Brandon, send him, right? Instead of, send me to do it. And so we need to take that down to a smaller level. What can your Sunday school class do to help be more missional, to help meet needs in the community? And what can you do on a personal level? So as we wind down, as we do in most Southern Baptist churches, we end up with a time of invitation where hopefully when we encounter testimonies, we encounter God's word, we don't leave unchanged. Hopefully when we encounter those things that we leave changed people. And as Diann mentioned, what's God asking of you? What's he asking of you today? Is it to live that missional life, to be more proactive, and less just let somebody else do it? Could it be that you've resisted that call on your life that God's had, whether that's for salvation or for ministry of some kind, or it could be to go to Haiti. It could be to walk across the street. It just all kinds of things that God could be calling you to do. We had a lady in the first service feel that God was leading her to come and be a part of our fellowship. And so that's also an option as well. We're certainly not a perfect church. You got me on staff, so it kind of ruins that. But we are a church that tries to be missional. We try to reach out and to meet physical and spiritual needs. So let me pray for us, and we'll have a time of invitation today.